to become who we want to be as individuals. And at the end of the day, that's going to help us be a successful offense.
Man-to-man, one-on-one coverage because the safety rolls to Jefferson's side.
Jordan Love hit me up the night of the draft, just congratulating me, let me know it's time to work. A.J. Dillon was open arms.
Von Rock caught a ball with his thighs. We didn't even talk about that.
It was more of with his ass.
If he throws a good ball, this is a running, catching touchdown untouched.
Like, KP does like these flips after every win, and I'm like just waiting for him to do his flip.
To know that we still love each other, that's what football brings us.
Across the safety's face.
So you can tune in anywhere that you guys follow us on social media. Welcome to the Practice Squad podcast. My name is John. I'm joined by my co-host Mark, and you are about to witness not only a lot of good, preseason, getting ready for the season to start football talk, but we will also be reviewing the NFC West today and the, two pretty prominent and two kind of garbage fire, teams that exist in that division. So Mark, how are you doing today, bud?
I'm good. I watched some preseason football, which means football's officially back. I know we've been saying that for a few episodes, but it's actually back. Games are being played. I know they're not real games. John was texting me kind of during the first week of preseason, like, hey, how many of these plays are actually legitimate? How many are actually going to be running the course of the season? And it's still legitimate football. They're running their actual stuff, but obviously no team's going to show any of their secrets or any of their weapons truly. But for some of these guys, this is life or death. Like, this is making the roster, not making the roster. This is their livelihood. This is their, their futures that depend on their performance in these games. And so to that extent, it's still exciting to watch.
Dude, honestly, like when people say that, they don't really give a shit about preseason, which if you're a casual football fan, I totally get it, right? Like there isn't a whole lot exciting about preseason. But if you're diehard football fans like you and I are, I get just as much enjoyment out of watching the preseason because of exactly what you said. First of all, it's still football. But second of all, I know the depth on quite a lot of rosters enough to at least know some of, the rookie guys, the fringe guys, the bubble guys that are literally, as you said, out there fighting for their careers more or less.
It means a lot to these people. I mean, you saw the clip of Mahomes after their backup quarterback made a great play. He probably looked more lit up and excited than he did after winning the Super Bowl, honestly. Running up and down the sideline, throwing the towel, he was fired up for this young guy that he spends so many hours with during camp and is obviously trying to, train and groom into being a good player. And that's the kind of stuff that makes you just love it, right? I mean, so many of my former teammates have gone through this, Khalil Pimpleton and Troy Brown on the Giants were in Detroit at Ford Field playing two of my former teammates. We've had Pimpleton on the show. They're fighting for roster spots and seeing Pimpleton get 3 targets, I think in his first, 4 or 5 plays in the game in the second half was pretty cool. And to someone like us where it means something, it's awesome to watch. So yeah, if you're right, if you don't look into football that detailed, we're kind of nuts, John. I don't think we're the minority football watchers in the world.
Definitely,
so
but
we'll watch anything.
Totally.
But there's still value for sure. And you see it in Hard Knocks. Watch Hard Knocks, dude. Yeah. I mean, watch Hard Knocks and see some of these fringe guys that are trying to make a roster. They show their stories. I mean, these people are doing everything they can. And you kind of fall in love with some of these stories and some of these underdog, routes to success. Some of the best players we've ever seen had to go through that process early in their career and then made it.
So, I mean, like you said, watching Khalil, and I thought he had a pretty good showing for the game. And then, Maurice Alexander with that return.
Stud.
I mean, he
changed his life with that one play.
And literally changed his life because not only was he a fringe guy, I mean, he never really got a fair shake at it with COVID and stuff like that. Yeah. He did not have an opportunity to play NFL football initially. Got to the USFL.
He was USFL, yeah. I mean,
but before that, he was a UPS driver. Which I mean, shit. I mean, you'd make more money doing that nowadays.
What a story, though. I mean, but think about it. USFL, nobody watches it, right? I mean, hey, that's a shitty league. No one cares. It's not the NFL or college. He is now going to be playing on Sundays. Hey,
man,
he's going to make some.
You should have signed up when you had the opportunity, man. Hey, really quick too, just while we're quickly on the topic of Lions and stuff like that. I mean, I think you already know what I'm about to show here, and if you don't, then I'd be surprised. Who had an outstanding game? Such an outstanding game, he probably solidified himself as a starter in 2 games for the Lions.
You gonna say Branch?
Brian Branch.
Brian Branch had a very good opening showing. Jack Campbell didn't look bad. Listen, all the rookies looked like he looked really good. Jack Campbell looked good. I wouldn't say really good. He looked good. He looked solid.
Yeah, Jack Campbell
Gibbs,
looked good. He looked comfortable.
In
in
the limited sight that we saw Gibbs, he looked, he's going to be solid. JMO struggled. I don't know what's going on there. I'm getting a little bit worried about that. I still believe in him.
He ran good routes. His hands were not great. I
blocking hasn't been great. Never has been, but
we'll see what happens here.
The one stud field interception too that was thrown like too high for him. He didn't even try to catch. Like that was in his range. He could have at least tried to catch it and taken a hit and maybe made a good catch. He literally took his hands and put them down. And it just sailed. Like you can't do that. Like if it's not every ball is going to be thrown perfectly, and giving up on it like that is not good. It's not good.
I'm not really going to share my opinions on Jameson Williams until after the season's over, because I think everybody's kind of throwing their hat in the ring too early here. Yeah. I think the hate. I understand where the question marks are, but I also think that the hate's coming way too early, and the people are that are fully in his corner. I get it. You want to be in the corner for, the guys that got selected by, our mega genius of a GM, Brad Holmes, and support those guys no matter come hell or high water. But, on the inverse, there are red flags. So I get it both ways. I think it's fair to say that no matter what your opinion on him is currently, it's probably not a very, factually based opinion.
Yeah, you're getting too high or too low based on what he's done. But I'll say, building off that, John, like we said, preseason, you do see a lot, right, from these young guys. Like you can't evaluate a lot. I mean, we'll get into it right here with kind of the quarterback play of some of these teams. You had a lot of rookies get their first action. Richardson, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Will Levis. A lot of these guys got their first action in NFL, and Trey Lance, who's a third-year guy, he's still getting a lot of preseason action, and we're still learning a lot about him. Like, none of them really shined. None of them really shined.
Hey, before we actually get into the preseason talk with the rest of the stuff, because there's going to be a lot of good stuff there. If you watch, the ticker here, there's a quick part that comes in that says, remind Mark to take the ACT. Now, I've done a really good job reminding Mark to take the ACT. And last time I said, hey, like, didn't you say the next test is in September?
September.
Yeah. And what did you say when I asked when the sign-up deadline for that was? You went, well, I don't know. I don't know what the sign-up date is for that. Well, before the show started, thankfully, I went and looked it up. And so you're actually in the late zone already. The deadline's August 18th. So you got 3 days to sign up for the September 9th test date. So, I mean, where you at, Mark? Like you got you're already paying the late fee. Yeah, see that August 18th, late registration deadline. So, you need me to zoom in for you? Yeah,
no, I can see it.
No, I'll make sure you got a good visual on it, just so that we can kind of see,
Yeah, it's
it's coming up.
Yeah, it's coming up. Like you got like 48 hours to kind of get signed up. Here, I'll send this link to you just to make sure that you got it. So, just make sure it's added into the chat so you don't forget, right? And I just want to make sure you don't forget about the bet that you lost and the ACT you have to take because you lost that bet.
Listen, John, I'm an honorable man. I'm gonna take this damn thing.
I'm just hey, as the ticker says, I'm here to remind you. I'm here to make sure that the reminders are happening.
Well, consider me reminded.
Okay, good. Yeah, definitely. Because like when I asked last week, you're like, I don't know when the deadline is. Well, it turns out it's coming up real quick. So
I knew it was coming up.
Yeah, I just want to make sure you're All right, so let's hop into these preseason games, and I just have kind of all these as a refresher. And I watched. It is preseason, so I'm not trying to say that I got highlights of every single game, but I watched a good chunk of them. I would say the one that stood out to me the most as far as rookie quarterback play is that I feel really, really bad for CJ Stroud. Not even because he played badly, because he did play badly. It's because, man, your first showing as an NFL, rookie quarterback is against the Patriots defense. That sucks. Because
Belichick had his number, man.
Had his number. Yeah, it doesn't matter the talent that's out there. That is a Bill Belichick defensive scheme that you're going against. And if you're a rookie quarterback, that is hell. I seriously can't imagine, even if CJ Stroud, had 8 weeks under his belt. If he ran into the Patriots defense, they were going to give him a really hard time. I mean, shit, they gave the Lions offense a super hard time. They shut them out last year, and the Lions offense was the top 5 in the league. Like, that sucks. So, not trying to take any opinions on Stroud in the slightest here, because of the fact that was, one of the worst situations you could probably get thrust into as your welcome into the NFL moment. So that stunk. Another one that was rough was Panthers for different reasons. Bryce Young had no protection. I mean, that offensive line did not exist. The dude,
And that was against most of the Jets' second and third team pass rushers. Like, it wasn't like it was, hey, here's our starters, we're going to go get after them. It was mostly their second and third guys that were still getting home, putting pressure on him. He was getting hit a lot. Yeah, and that was the big question, bringing in a small, undersized quarterback like that with the number 1 overall pick, is can you protect a guy from, because he's not physically going to be able to take many of those hits. Yeah, he's a tough kid, but
that and look, in his, or I guess the Panthers' defense, the Jets have a very deep pass rush, so
they do.
It's not to say that they were going up against complete schmucks, and you got to be better than that, though. Like, and if that's what the Panthers have to look forward to from an offensive line standpoint this season, they're not going to win very many games, because they have a really good defense, but their offense needs to, kind of be like middle of the pack if they actually want to do anything.
Yeah. John, can I give myself some credit here, since we've started the episode slandering me about my last year's being wrong about that Lions over under bet?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not slandering.
Can I renew my name?
I'm
reminding me, but it also slanders that I was
it slanders
wrongfully betting
your deadline attention to detail.
That too, make sure, but also I was wrong, grossly wrong, on the Detroit Lions over under last year.
You sure were.
Wins. So I'm on the right track this year, though, in some predictions. Because a few episodes ago, if you are a consistent listener, called Dalvin Cook going to the Jets. That's confirmed has happened.
Yep.
And I also want to say that Richardson, not a good showing in his first game. Maybe too early to get a little bit high, but he was named the starter. And I want to get into this because I don't know what you think, but I think that's kind of premature considering he played in one preseason game.
I think that's Jim Irsay being super irrational. I think that's just standard. His inability to, have patience or rationality towards much of anything related to him owning the team. I'd say as far as owners go, he has his hand in the pot way too often and doesn't really let the general manager just do his freaking job, or the coaches for that matter. Look, Richardson looked nervous and it showed, and
the one interception was really, really bad. Like that's what scares me is his high is obviously high. Like he's a talented kid. He can do some things athletically that not many people can do, but that kind of consistency isn't going to cut it in the league. I mean, you can't have one really good throw, one maybe athletic run or scramble, and then just turn it over off your back foot.
Yeah, if you want to run like a Wildcat type package, literally every single play,
I don't know.
But that's not going to get you there.
It just feels premature. I just feel like they're clearly investing in their future. They're basically saying, you're going to be our guy. We hope you're our guy. We're just going to throw you in the fire and hope you figure it out. They kind of did the same thing with Peyton Manning way back when. They just started him. I mean, I think in his first game,
was horrible.
His first season, he led the NFL in interceptions, and they were not good. Obviously, he ended up being Peyton Manning, so it worked out for him, but I don't know if Richardson is Peyton Manning.
Yeah, I think that's the exception rather than the norm for sure. And the best way for him to develop, if you're all in on this guy being your starting quarterback of the future, which if you've taken him 4th overall, I assume that's the expectation. And so that's good. But like that, there's pros and cons to taking it that way. The con is you're not going to win very many games this season. Maybe they accept that. You and I talked about this before we got rolling. Like maybe they're just expecting, hey, it is more valuable to us as an organization that Richardson is thrusted into that position so that he can develop and learn as quickly as possible, because that is the best way to develop and learn, is to just be forced to play at that high of a level for an entire season. But you're accepting then the fact that this season's going to probably be brutal. And if that's what the Colts are accepting, then that's what the Colts are accepting. I I think
And Gardner Minshew, like, has shown in real NFL games that he's more than capable of competing and winning them. I mean, he came in and backed up when Jalen Hurts was hurt last year.
Yep.
Looked good for the Eagles. He looked good for the Jags when he started there. Like, he has shown enough to definitely at least get past week 1 of preseason before he gets named the backup.
That's kind of what I'm
like,
thinking is like, why don't you like let Richardson at least develop for the first, 3 or 4 weeks of the regular season? Like, what's the loss in that, right? Like, I don't think he's going to.
Yeah. I mean, and then like you said, use him in certain packages, kind of get his feet wet a little bit,
Right.
and ease him into this thing rather than just throw him into the fire. Oh, another thing too to give myself credit on that I forgot about. A few episodes ago, we were talking about the 49ers quarterback situation. Brock Purdy coming back. Sam Darnold was mentioned. And I said, who was going to be the second stringer, maybe the starter? Sam Darnold, right?
Yeah,
Trey Lance tanking. He might be third string. He might be on the trade block. He might be, I don't know, because he didn't look good his preseason game.
Yeah. So, by the way, new introduction to the Practice Squad podcast. We do have an NFL Plus subscription, which means that we have access to all 22 film. You're welcome, everybody. We can now analyze all 22 film. Unfortunately, for preseason ball, they don't have that, but we will have it for the regular season. But yeah, I mean, look, this is the one play that I take away from Trey Lance is he somehow didn't throw an interception. This turned into a touchdown, but it was to no credit to Trey Lance, and the camera angle doesn't necessarily do the best job. What happens here is it bounces off of the defensive back's hands, and then he makes a diving catch for it. So I'll back this up again. So you'll see here, rolls out, throws it pretty much straight to the D-back. Bounces off his hands there. 17 didn't catch it. Some tight end or something who dove for it and is the one that... Was that Kittle that caught it?
No.
I was about to say...
Dwelly.
So one of the more fluky plays that I saw in this preseason. But yeah, look, if you look at some of the other plays, and I don't have really any in specific, if I'm being honest here, but they were not great. He did not look good.
And these are moments where the film tells the truth and stats will lie. Right on the stat sheet, that's a touchdown.
Right.
When you actually watch the film, that should not have been a touchdown.
That should have been an interception.
That's a downgrade. Yeah, that's a downgrade. That's a bad grade on that play for Trey Lance. And again, they believed in Trey Lance. They came up in the draft to get him. They really thought this was going to be their guy. They let Jimmy G walk because they really believed in this guy. And thank God that they got Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy, and they were right on that one. Because if they were wrong, the 49ers would be in a very different place, and they would be really struggling at that quarterback situation. And listen, you only go as far as your quarterback can take you. I mean, they can have a great system like they have every year, a great defense like they have every year, a great coach, but you need a quarterback that can at least function in what you're asking this offense to do. And Trey Lance just isn't getting it done. I know he's had limited opportunity, but this is year 3 for him. And we've seen enough of him to think that there's going to be some kind of improvement. But
speaking of other quarterbacks that are in year 3, just to bounce back to the sheet, Jordan Love didn't look too bad.
He did not look bad.
They kept it very comfortable for him. They weren't asking him to, be Aaron Rodgers, but that's fine, right? You don't have to be Aaron Rodgers to win games. I think they're just trying to see what they have in Jordan Love. And honestly, like, he completed some really good passes. He did a lot of really, impressive stuff. If you're just saying, hey, can you be like a game manager quarterback? Can you do your job? So I was pretty impressed with Love showing. And then as a Saints fan here, I got to also mention, man, when they had their starters versus the KC starters for that like one drive or whatever it was, dude, I think Carr will actually be the solution for the Saints offense that has not been present for the past 3 years. I think
you don't think that's an overstatement, John?
I don't think
overreaction.
So. I think the dude's freaking look, call it overreaction. That's fine. I think that this opportunity for him has made him more locked in and dedicated to this game than he's been in years, because he had to pull it all together just to get the Raiders into an okay spot because of how horribly they were managed. And again, I'm not saying this with Saints fan bias. You can go and look at any episode prior to us trading to Carr. I said, Carr is the rock for that team, while the ownership, the coaching, the management is like basically just snorting cocaine and drafting whoever, and they go up and killing people and doing stuff. And then, Carr has literally no weapons to throw to. It's always turbulent, mid-season firings, all of that stuff. He's finally in a stable situation, right? They've had the same freaking GM for years, same ownership, not making irrational decisions. They always have, good roster management, all of that stuff. I seriously think that's the situation that he needed. And now that he has it, I think he's going to be in decent shape. Saints offensive line is middle of the road. The receiving core is above average. The running backs are, I would say, maybe average or slightly above average. And then you still have a top 10, top 5 defense in the league. After seeing what the Panthers offensive line was able to do in protecting Bryce Young, I'm feeling pretty good about the Saints' chances to win their division. And yes, I will say that after 2 drives from
I'm going to say overreaction, but hey, you believe in it. You're strong. It's out there for everyone to know and hear that John strongly believes in the Saints, and he'll be riding.
Maybe that's our bet. Should we do another under over 8 wins and then figure out a punishment almost as ridiculous as the ACD?
I'm not as invested in the Saints as you are. So,
all right.
Plus, that division is god awful.
Very, very bad. That's all the games that I caught personally. I was hearing some chatter about Justin Fields, everybody was going nuts over him. And then I saw a bunch of idiot Bears fans and a bunch of idiot other fans basically arguing.
They were short passes where the receivers made plays. Right. It's not, again, you can't get too high or too low on preseason. Trevor Lawrence looked good. And the Jags offense looked good even when they got into their backups. Again, it's preseason.
Steelers looked football. Good. Steelers looked good.
Yeah. So, but again, it's preseason. You can't get too high or too low. Listen, dude, the Ravens have won 29 straight now preseason games. Can we talk about that for a second? That might be one of the crazier stats there is.
Yeah, it's insane. I don't know how you do that.
How many years is that?
I think
that's 7 years.
Yeah, it's 7 years straight of winning all your preseason games. And look, I'll say this much. I think that's a great testament for how good of a coach Harbaugh is, getting, literally guys that are probably going to get cut and having them play proficiently enough to, beat the guys on the other side of that football, right? I think it's a similar, I don't know what the Patriots, win streak is for preseason. I assume Belichick is a similar situation where no matter what guys he's coaching, they're going to be playing at least okay football, So that's kind of how I feel about it. It's impressive.
Insane stat.
It's very impressive. Now, if only they can translate that to, regular season wins and winning playoff games. Yeah, that's the big thing. Other big thing, Patriots, speaking of, signing Zeke to a 1-year deal to play center. I'm just kidding.
Hey, this is a good fit for them. This is a good fit for anywhere for where Zeke should go this year. Now, this is not the same Zeke that we've known, right? This is a little bit slower, a little bit bigger, more of a power back. He's a good alternate back for New England to have. You mix him with Stevenson. They like to run the ball there. They like to get, downhill. He's a good back to have. He fits their system. He fits the Patriot mold. He is a team guy. I've heard, a lot of people can say a lot of things about Zeke, but I've had people that have actually played with him say he's one of the best teammates and wants to win more than anybody on the roster.
Yeah. So, and as you said, great blocking running back too. Good at lead blocking, good at pass protection. So,
he's a good fit.
Yeah, he's a really good fit. I think it's a good fit for the system, and obviously, didn't overpay for him, which is obviously nice too. So, yeah, I'm in support of this deal for sure. I definitely think it's a good landing spot. I'm happy that him and Dalvin both on a landing spot. So obviously, Cook going to the Jets, as Mark said, he called it a month ago. So hats off to Mark for that one. Pretty much as soon as he was cut, right?
Dude, this just makes the Jets everything is pointing to the Jets really being the team to beat, besides the Chiefs, obviously.
Their biggest question, ironically, is their offensive line. That all of a sudden has kind of become the narrative of, okay, you got your wide receivers, you got your run game, you have a stellar defense, and
literally,
can you block for Aaron Rodgers? That's the big point of concern. They've been battling injury. They're not very deep. So the question is can their starting offensive line stay healthy? And is that enough as is, right? That's kind of the big question.
Listen, too, though, if there is ever a quarterback that can handle having maybe not the best offensive line, it's a guy that knows how to get the ball out early, go through his progressions quick, is really good at pre-snap checks and audibles, and make sure that his team's always in a good play. And they're going to give Aaron Rodgers the freedom, and him and Hackett have this chemistry that clearly worked in Green Bay, where they didn't have the best offensive lines those years where he was winning MVPs and winning the division with ease. Aaron Rodgers makes that O-line's life way easier. He puts way less stress on them. He's not going to drop back in the pocket with these 5-step drops and hold on to the ball and really look to take shots down the field. He's going to make pre-snap decisions. He's going to have all of his checkdowns built in. He's not going to take a lot of hits. He's not going to force them to have to block for very, very long amounts of time. So if there ever was a quarterback where they can still win games and survive with a good defense, it's Aaron Rodgers. He makes it, you saw with Tom Brady, he did it for many years where the O-line wasn't great. He's able to just get the ball out, manipulate the pocket, quick, easy throws, and just kind of chunk your way down the field rather than, what some of these quarterbacks do. They sit back there all day. Like Josh Allen will sit back there all day and wait for something to open up and make plays with his legs. Rodgers beats you just with his mind, before the play even starts.
I agree that it won't be a huge hindrance up until the point that it is, right? And
until you really play a pass rush.
Yeah. Right. And I mean, that's what KC ran into against Tampa in the Super Bowl, right? It's like, okay, the offensive line wasn't really a problem for them that year until they went up against a very disruptive front seven, and Mahomes couldn't do anything that game.
To come out of the AFC, you're gonna have to protect the quarterback. I mean, it's simple. There's some really good pass rush teams coming out on the AFC side. So
but look, I completely agree with you. Like the Jets are not only looking like a pretty much like shoe-in for the playoffs. They're probably looking like a shoe-in to win a few playoff games. And it's a very, very competitive AFC, so I don't want to get too high on them, but definitely in the top, 2 or 3 AFC teams to be in the Super Bowl conversation with what they got going on as well. That's why you go out and get a guy like Aaron Rodgers to get you over the edge and make that happen. So.
Thinking of, and listen, I'm biting on the bait, right? They're a Hard Knocks team. You're seeing a lot of it. It's just forced. Your eyes are just like, you're forced to watch the Jets and news about them, but they're the second best betting odds to win their division. The Bills are the best. I like those odds. I think the Jets are the team to beat in that division with Mr. Aaron Rodgers coming in, because I just don't think the Bills have the consistent running game. And no offense, because I love him, but Josh Allen, I don't know if he can compete with Aaron Rodgers. So when it comes down to it, and they open up the season, by the way. Those two open up the season.
I'm excited to watch them play week 1, and then I don't know when the second game is, but just the fact they're going to have a rematch too is very exciting. So, it should be some good stuff. So, moving on to the NFC West. I really like this division. This tends to be one of the divisions that I pay a little bit more attention to through the season in general. Primarily because of the Niners, and then the past couple of years, obviously Stafford going to the Rams, I've paid a little bit more attention as well. But look, I mean, the Niners, 6-0 in the division, 13-4. We're playing a really competitive NFC Championship game until they had literally no quarterbacks on the roster to go out there and try to finish the game out, which sucks, honestly, because of what they're able to put together this season. Seahawks, kind of the surprise team. I think everybody kind of expected them to finish last in the division. They end up finishing second, 9-8, wild card, with a last-minute win against the Rams, on some pretty interesting circumstances from a zebra standpoint. But I guess Lions fans are probably the only people that are bitter about that. Rams coming in third, 5-12, obviously plagued by injuries, plagued by free agency losses. So the Super Bowl hangover, was really, really, really bad for them, and it's probably going to continue to be bad. Yeah.
You got to decide as a Rams fan, was it worth it? Was it worth it to have all the glory and the ring?
It's worth it. It's worth it. It's always worth it. Do you think the Tampa fans are upset about what Brady was able to give to them now that they're in shambles, which we'll talk about the NFC South in 2 weeks here? So, and then Cardinals not only finishing last in the division, losing their franchise quarterback to an ACL injury, but are also not looking good for this season. And frankly, we're going to be going through their draft class rather than watching a whole lot of film on them for this episode, because I don't know what to show you guys, right? Kyler's out, so quarterback's a huge question mark. Their offensive line needs a lot of repairing. Their defensive line is going to look entirely different.
Hopkins
lost D-Hop. They lost a lot of their primary. Green retired, right? So receiving core looks so like as far as using last year as a proxy for some things that they're going to be doing well or we have questions about going into this year, we have no landmarks whatsoever. We have no roadmap. We're going in blind. I think they're not going to be. Oh yeah, by the way, different coach and GM too, right? So not even the system's the same. So we'll get to them last. And if you're a Cardinals fan, I'm sorry, we don't have a whole lot to talk about. So don't get your hopes up. Starting, however, with the Rams. Look, Mark, what is this? Matt Stafford interception.
The fact that his odds he has minus odds to throw a pick, John. It's not great.
I was going to get into this to start. I was like, all right, so obviously Mark picks out a lot of the highlights and film that we do for these videos. And I knew the minute that I turned on the Rams that one of the very first things that Mark was going to shove in our face was Matt Stafford's interception problem.
He led the league in picks, man. He led the league in picks. He was on track to do it again until he got hurt. Like, that's a problem. That's a huge problem on a team that doesn't have the same, like, overall weapons and defense that they had when they made that Super Bowl run.
Yeah, because if it's following Brady's track, this is probably likely to be his last season. His wife is calling for it, and he tends to listen to her, her opinions pretty closely. I think that he's beat up. He's old, unfortunately. And while we appreciate the time he gave us in Detroit, he, after that Super Bowl win, does not look like his former self. And I think this year is probably going to be his last. And yeah, interceptions were a problem last year. Offensive line,
the Super Bowl year.
Yeah, and the offensive line is not doing him any favors either. So that's another thing to consider. It's going to be rough for the Rams offense, honestly. I would expect a whole lot of, Matthew Stafford to Cooper Kupp. And then when that doesn't work, I don't know what the hell else you're going to do for the rest of your offense for the most part. That's kind of what it was turning into last season already. And then both got injured. And then they didn't really have a whole lot going for them the rest of the season. Except, Baker Mayfield coming in there and, flirting that perfect line where we got screwed over having a top 3 pick because Baker Mayfield wanted to win some games.
Baker had to go clutch time.
But on the flip side, couldn't win enough games where the Lions actually make the playoffs because they couldn't beat Seattle last minute. So thanks a lot, Baker Mayfield. Really appreciate you. But yeah, pretty rough there, obviously. Definitely a problem last season for him.
Now I don't only show the negatives. This is his no-look pass in the Super Bowl. One of the best passes considering the circumstances on a game-winning Super Bowl drive of all time. There's no-look passes that we see Rodgers do, that we see Mahomes do, that we've seen Stafford do a million times. That's like, oh, that was awesome. And it's on SportsCenter, and they talk about it, and they show highlights of it. To do it with the game on the line, driving to try to win the Super Bowl with those stakes. This is the kind of crazy shit that is the same reason I hate Matthew Stafford and talk about him not being elite, because the fact that he was willing to do this in this moment of the game, it's so risky. It's not even funny, but the fact that it works makes him look like he's got balls of steel.
He also popularized, the sidearms that Mahomes does all the time. He did. But, back then he was getting MF'd all the time for taking the risks on those sidearms.
As he should, because he does it. There's times where it's necessary, and there's guys that can do it at a high clip consistently. He wasn't one of those guys for a lot of his career. He was kind of doing it just to do it. But I'm telling you, to give him his flowers while he's still playing, this was one of the best throws I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I mean, watching this moment live was just incredible. I mean, seriously, as Mark said, one of the more iconic passes in all of Super Bowl history. I think a lot of people will remember this play for a very long time. And when I think of Matthew Stafford, I think of no-look passes and some crazy-ass sidearms and him hauling it to Calvin Johnson in triple coverage. I don't think of the high interception rate. I get Mark's opinions. I understand, but I have trouble hating on the dude that I watched for a decade play for the Lions, because he did give us everything he had. And, another thing that we would show if we had the time for it, but it's so dated it doesn't even matter, is, the times that Matt Stafford has won games playing through injury. That Browns game was pretty legendary. I've seen him come back, -3 touchdowns against the Saints in Ford Field. What was that, like 6-7 years ago? It was a long time ago now, but that was a legendary
He's
game.
had some crazy games. He's had
Super
some,
crazy
he's had
games.
some bad moments. He's
his
an up
fourth
and down
quarter
guy.
comeback ability is crazy. But that means that he had to not play so great for the 3 quarters before that. So that's always the knock on Matthew Stafford, man. His highs are really high and his lows are pretty low. And he's always had a receiving weapon. And for a long time it was Calvin Johnson. Past few years it's been Triple Crown winner Cooper Kupp. He's getting a little long in the tooth as well, but one thing he will always be elite at is his route running. I mean, he just burned the shit out of that corner.
I don't care what anyone says. He's like just the purest receiver in the league in terms of the actual technician of the position, consistent hands. There's not a weakness in Cooper Kupp's game. And there's only a few receivers you can say that about. And I think that he does so many things so damn well. He's the best at a lot of things at the receiver position in the NFL. And it's
that play here is incredible. I mean, that corner was following an invisible man.
Well, do you see the deception of with his shoulders and his head? That's what sells it. And he just does this stuff so consistently. It actually is sick. He's a problem. And there's a reason that he gets targeted at such a high share. There's a reason that Stafford's looking his way all the time. There's a reason that when Stafford's been asked in the past in interviews, him or Calvin Johnson, that he doesn't have a clear answer. And we're talking about Megatron here. We're talking about a first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the best we've ever seen. And when they say, hey, him or Kupp, he's like, both. He can't give a clear answer because that's how good Cooper Kupp's been for him in this short time that they've been together. And it's nothing against Calvin Johnson.
No, it's
everything
the
for Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, the compliment.
And this guy doesn't get enough credit, man. He doesn't get enough credit. Again, last year before his injury, he was the number 1 player in fantasy football. He was on track to win the Triple Crown with by even a larger margin than he won at the year before. And the Rams weren't as good as a team, and he was doing this. I mean, they didn't even like Robert Woods was hurt. They were not as good weapon wise, and he was still on track to do that. So I don't want to hear any slander about Cooper Kupp. One thing the Rams have is this dude, and that ain't going anywhere. Yeah. So if he stays healthy, he's an absolute problem for anyone they play against.
100%. And with as shitty as the Rams offensive line is, I think that they still, are going to be competitive because they got Stafford, they got Kupp, and they got McVay scheming, and he'll figure it out to at least
exactly.
Play
and
one thing
I'll point out, John, before we move into the 49ers here is if you're worried, if you're a fantasy player and you're worried about, hey, Cooper Kupp's the only guy on this team, like they're just going to double him, he's going to be hard for him to get open. McVay does a great job of moving him around, motioning him, and having him line up at a different spot every single play. So it's really hard to double somebody that's moving like that because you don't know where he's going to be on any given snap, and you don't know if he's going to motion, and if you don't know if he's got double moves or option routes. Because Cooper Kupp reads defenses just as well as the quarterback does. So he's going to find soft spots in zone. He's going to know what he has to run on certain option routes to get open. He's going to know how he has to stem and attack different defensive backs. So because of how smart he is and because of how smart McVay is, I wouldn't worry too much about stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, and you can go look at our fantasy episode if you want more information on kind of Mark and I's opinions. I personally wouldn't see him as like a first round wide receiver because of just there are risks. There's risk of him being the only weapon. There's risks of him, with injury, the fact that, the Rams aren't going to be as good of a team this year. And I tend to favor, really solid offenses that score a lot of points, that get the ball around to a lot of people. But if he's still there in your second, third round and, you're looking for somebody to take a flyer on, I definitely think he's worth considering. But you also
I would take him first round still. I still think he's worthy of first round pick. I think I'd take him as like the third or fourth receiver.
Mark and I are in disagreement there, but that's all good. So, okay, Mark, explain to me what we're going through for this run play here.
So this is a run play that seals the game against the Seahawks last year. And basically what they're saying is you give on any play when coaches are breaking down the film, you get a plus or a minus. It's not like a letter grade of A, B, D, E, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. No C's, no average. Like you get a plus for doing your job and doing it well, or you get a minus. You didn't do your job, right? It's pass or fail.
Got it.
So everyone on this play, every single person on this play got a plus. And if you play in super slow-mo, John, you can watch. We'll watch it a couple times too, just to see. The blocking scheme is awesome. The play call is awesome, one. But watch just the front side, which they're going to run to the left here. Kyle Juszczyk has this Quandre Diggs here, isolation block. They block down. It's a down zone scheme. Wash everything down. And then watch what Trent Williams is able to do to get to the second level and create. You see what 60 does? He comes off a block, gets to the next level. Trent Williams gets to the next level. And now it's just running back one-on-one with a safety in the hole. And even he does his job making one guy miss. If you're running back in the league with this much space, you're expected to be able to make a guy miss. And he does. This is just an all-around this. And this is what the 49ers do. They push people around. They communicate blocks extremely well. They do these zone scheme run plays better than anybody in the league. And the Shanahan system has been doing that long before Kyle was ever a head coach. His dad used to do the same stuff. Kyle Juszczyk's one of the best fullbacks in the league at blocking. Kittle's one of the best blocking tight ends. They have the best tackle in football. This is what they do. And if you allow them to do it, they're going to run the ball down your throat all game long. And this seals the game for them. This first down right here was to clinch the game. Seattle had to get a stop to have a chance and clearly couldn't get off the field. But even backside, they wall it off. I mean, it's pretty rare, honestly, when you watch a play where all 11 dudes win their job.
Right.
Yeah, it's really, really rare.
And what this opens up, which I'm sure we'll have some discussion about, is the play action game, right? Is that their run game is so deadly and something that you have to respect so much, not only with their blocking, because their blocking's incredible. They have arguably the best blocking tight end in the league. Their running backs are not afraid to block, and their offensive line is really, really, really good. Then you have guys like Debo and Christian McCaffrey and Ayuk. And what's special about Debo and Christian McCaffrey is they can disguise themselves as running back or receivers. And it gives Shanahan so many options to give just such a crazy variety of looks, crazy variety of different motions that you can use with any of these guys. And it makes it very difficult to prepare for his defense. And it makes it very difficult to figure out if you need to respect the run game or respect the pass game on any given play, because you don't even know which guys are technically receivers or running backs in any given play. Oh, and they can all block really well too. So
it gives Shanahan this unique ability, the way that you can use Kyle Juszczyk, Debo, McCaffrey, and Kittle, and not to mention their third and fourth string running backs like Elijah Mitchell, like those guys are good. So you have all of these different guys that you can manipulate where they line up in motion, how you get them the ball. Obviously, scheme-wise on a play, it can mess with the defense. But not only that, before the play even starts, personnel-wise, you can screw with teams. He can make it look like it's going to be a heavy run set because you got Juszczyk in, Kittle in, another tight end, all McCaffrey. Let's say you took Debo out, and you're like, oh, this is going to be a heavy run play. And all of a sudden they line up and it's a wide spread out formation. You're like, what? And you subbed in your run defense. You subbed in an extra D lineman, and you took out your dime package and you put in another linebacker, another down safety to tackle. And you're like, oh shit, they're going to throw here. And now you're not, and you can't sub again once you've made that sub. Right. So they can really toy with defenses before the play even begins, before there's ever even a motion. Then when you start talking about motion and moving these guys around on top of it, it's electrifying. And Kyle Shanahan, one of the best coaches in the league at using what he has personnel-wise to just torch you. And I put in like highlight reel plays like Debo Samuel. There's only a few guys in the league that can do this. And I remember sending this to John. I was watching this game live. He really is a grown man that looks like he's going back and playing, JV football. Like he's making these dudes who are professionals. These are the best in the world on defense, best tacklers in the world, look stupid.
The way he runs in space, and I know it's
that's
not
Jalen Ramsey. He makes miss.
I know it's not a 1-to-1 comparison because of the positions they play, but the way he runs in space reminds me so much of the highlight reels of Barry Sanders that I watched as a kid, where it's like it doesn't matter like where he is on the field, where the defense is in proximity, he can make anybody miss in space. It's ridiculous. And he, like you said, Mark, I mean, he makes 4 or 5 guys look like complete morons on this play that are incapable of tackling another person on a football field, which they're all paid millions of dollars to do. It's ridiculous what he's capable of. He's one of those people. I mean, I love watching the 49ers play football in general because of all the reasons that we're listing. but Debo's just special, and he's incredibly fun to watch. I know he had a little bit more of a quiet year last season, but if he's back to the form that he was the season prior, I mean, look
at the hustle by Ayuk. You see the last pancake block too. You can just see guys like the willingness to just work extra downfield to make sure that a play isn't just a 30-yard gain, that it does spring as a touchdown from all these guys. I mean, watch Juszczyk. He's the check down here. He accelerates to find work. You have 15 accelerating to find work. Ayuk's going to come on the screen here on the bottom here. He could easily just like give up and think Debo's going to score. Instead, he hits the guy and pancakes him. Just to like, hey, exclamation point on the play. Like it's just and that's Ayuk. He's not.
I was about to say, and Ayuk is supposed to be like their actual like wide receiver that isn't maybe as quote unquote versatile, but you see him blocking the shit out of dudes. I mean, he's a team player for sure. And somebody I'm high on, especially as a fantasy sleeper. Like he has gotten better and better and better each year. I'm expecting this to kind of be like his big season, I think. He's again like a guy that maybe is, wide receiver 3 or whatever when you look at the depth chart, but he's a very, very solid player. He's really coming to his own. Then we got, like I said, maybe not the best receiving tight end in the league, but arguably the best blocking tight end in the league. I mean, Kittle is no freaking joke, man.
I think no doubt he's the best blocking, and I think he's still top 3 receiving, which is ridiculous. This guy loves to block. That's how you finish a block, man. And the fact that he just does it and just enjoys doing it. You can see he's yelling, he's enjoying it. You've seen him mic'd up. He talks shit while he does it. He loves football. He
always
loves doing
having
this.
fun. He plays football like he's a little kid. Like he's the shit talk that he says while he's playing. I mean, there's that one stupid video of him just like literally laughing like he's a 5-year-old kid as he's blocking the shit out of somebody.
Yeah.
Like.
This is just technically so good. I mean, the slide step right here, where he puts his hands, and then just to continue to drive. You're a big physical specimen like this. Here's the thing: there's a lot of guys, by the way, John, that are just like Kittle physically that could do this to linebackers and safeties whenever they want.
Right.
It's a mental thing. It's a mental thing to decide I'm going to impose my will on another grown man. And Kittle does it throughout the game.
It's like
Kelsey could do this whenever he wants to.
Right.
He doesn't. Darren Waller could do this whenever he wants to. He doesn't. Mark Andrews could do this whenever he wants to. He doesn't. And that's what separates Kittle and why there's no doubt he's the best blocking tight end in the league. And it might not show up on the fantasy scoreboard or, it might not always make the highlight reels, but he does so many things that are unsung and unnoticed for this team. I mean, watch this play. Yeah, I mean, this is the zoomed out. This is a 22 film clip, but he's at the top. Play. He's the top tight end. He's on the right-hand side. This is a goal line play. This stuff stands out when you watch film of the 49ers. I mean, he moves this throw.
Holy shit.
Like, that's insane.
I mean, he's literally pancaking him like 8 yards down.
8 yards into the end zone. And listen, did he have to do this here? No. No, because he's the backside block on a zone left running play. He's the right tight end. And he says, I don't care. I'm imposing my will. That's a choice. That is a choice right there. That's what separates him, and I absolutely love it.
It's freaking awesome. I think, Mark and I are on the same page. This is one of our favorite offenses in the league for so many reasons. Like they are just a treat to watch. It's like pinnacle, like, okay, here's like some incredibly schemed football, and then the personnel groups that you have to complement that scheme are just perfect for what Shanahan's trying to do. And like the cast is so likable for that reason.
It's a play caller's dream. It really is. Shanahan is great. And that's why there was no hesitation to trade for McCaffrey last year. When they did it, how they did it, how it all worked out, it did not surprise me at all because Kyle Shanahan saw an opportunity. He went and got a guy that is literally a jack of all trades. If there was ever a guy in the league that can do anything you ask him to do, it's Christian McCaffrey. He can block, he can run routes, he can throw, for God's sake. Obviously he can run, but he's a do it all. And he's like, I need that guy on my team. And they went and got him. They made it happen.
Yeah. And, I don't think we really had a ton of film for the defensive side of the ball for the Niners too. And it's going to look a little bit different with Ryan's, but here's the thing. I mean,
Fred
easily
Warner's
Yeah, I
One
was
of the
going to say,
best.
easily one of the better front sevens in the league. I mean, with Bosa and Fred Warner, they're incredible. It's going to look different. It might not be, top 3 defense in the league with Ryans. I'm not totally sure, honestly. They retained a lot of their personnel, so we'll see what happens with it. But I think it's going to be just as dominant as it has been prior seasons. So, moving on to the Seahawks. Now, again, this team this time last season, everybody expected the Seahawks to be bottom 5 teams in the league, Mark and I included. I don't think anybody was expecting Geno Smith to have his comeback season. I don't think anybody was expecting their defense to be as good as it was, their run game to be as solid as it was. Overall, I think they surprised a lot of people. They still do have problems, but I think that this team is in a significantly better spot than where the Rams and the Cardinals are at. And I think that Pete Carroll was not messing around when he said, nope, this is not a rebuild, it's a reload, right? And I think that, second, maybe only to the Eagles, their draft classes from the past 2 years have been like chef's kiss immaculate for what they've been trying to do. I mean, they've basically, have an incredible trio of receivers. And on the other side of it, they now have 3 incredibly talented defensive backs as well. So, if
They
you're
have
trying to bring back,
they have a top 3 receiving trio core in the league. They have a top probably 6 or 7 running back duo in the league. Their quarterback was the question when Russell Wilson left. Geno Smith has come in and he played
rose to the occasion.
much better than Russell Wilson did last year. And he was a Pro Bowler. So and you add the fact that they, like you said with the Niners, they've retained pretty much both their starting lineups on both sides, and they drafted really well. And not only are they drafting these young guys that you think are going to do well, it's translating. Like these young guys are coming in and they're fitting into the system the way that they think that they will and hope that they will. There's very different things of drafting a player that everyone thinks is a good draft pick and then he doesn't pan out because maybe it's not the right fit or they put him on the field too soon. They're drafting guys at positions where they need them right now, and the guys are actually mentally and physically ready to do what they need them to do. You've seen them do it in the secondary. They've gotten some pass rushers. They got Jackson Smith and Jigba in this year's draft. I mean, you mix a guy that's very much like Tyler Lockett in his ability to run vertical routes
too is just crazy.
This throw is unbelievable. The tracking of the ball is unbelievable. It's you have to understand that this is going to be an any down thing, this play action shot play to guys like Lockett and Metcalf. But
and this is a bold ass play against this defensive backcourt.
He throws into 3. It's triple covered, man.
Right. And again, that's nothing to sneeze at against the Saints either. Again, one of the better DB cores in the league. And I mean, it's crazy what they accomplish here. And now you're adding in JSN to that mix, which is impressive. And then again, their defensive back core is Diggs. They just picked up Witherspoon, and Woolen probably was the second best DB out of the rookie class out of everybody.
He gets forgotten about because of how good Sauce was, but I think Woolen might end up being better than Sauce over the course of their career. I really think that he's just as good, if not going to be better. So you have really good things going on in Seattle. I really like this team. I like them as a sleeper to win this division. I like Geno as a sleeper to win the MVP, and I like them as a sleeper to make a run in the NFC. I mean, a lot of people talk about the Lions being that new team. Obviously, the 49ers and Eagles are going to be there in the picture in the NFC. Right. But this and the Lions are my 2 new teams of, hey, welcome to the show, welcome to the club, we're going to compete. And if there is a new team trying to compete for an NFC title this year, do not be surprised if you see the Seattle Seahawks in that situation.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy how quickly they're able to kind of bounce back. They do have 2 weaknesses at this point that I do want to make note of because I think it will matter down the stretch for them. Interior offensive line, interior defensive line. Those were 2 glaring problems that everybody was expecting them to address in the draft. They didn't really. I still think the guys that they picked up are good fits for them. I think that they were great draft picks, but those are 2 things that they've kind of kicked the can down the road on. Again, every team has weaknesses, but I just would be remiss not to point it out.
You always, it's like you're always one step ahead of me and say exactly, if you go back to this play, I wanted to show as he talks about, yes, the offensive line is weak, but if you pause and you put it in slow motion, watch the offensive line now, watch what they do. Both tight ends here, 87 and 89, are in the pass pro. This is a full and they do a full slide left protection where 87 comes across to help block on the right, and 89 stays as well. That's like a max protection, right? Because they know they're taking a shot down the field. They don't want to have any pressure on Geno Smith. I anticipate them doing more of stuff like this so that they can help out that offensive line that's struggling. You see teams that are struggling do that, and they run routes with only 3 receivers instead of 4 or 5, and they keep a couple extra guys in to protect. And if you have guys like Lockett, DK, and JSN, you don't need 5 receivers in the play because one of those guys is probably going to create enough separation to be open. And Geno throws the ball really well down the field. He's one of the best vertical passers in the NFL right now. He did this stuff in college. He's done this stuff for a long time. Like this is in his skill set. Making throws like this is not new to him. So I'm excited to see what they do.
We found a good fit. Oh, also another knock that I have on them. Just while we're talking uniform game, why does the numbers on these jerseys look like and I've mentioned this in prior podcasts, but like it still bothers me. It looks like the background of like a PNG, like a backgroundless picture, or does like the checkerboard print. Yeah. Why do they do that? It looks bad. Just straight. There's too much going on with their jerseys, with the neon and again, like Mark and I say, like this is like 8th grader fashion sense, basically. I really struggle with their home jerseys. I think they need to get updated really badly. I just have to throw that in there. I'm sorry.
I just don't like when they do the all neon uniforms.
Those are
I can
horrible
handle
too.
A little bit of neon as an accent, as
this is ugly. This is bad. I don't even know what it's trying to be. Maybe there's something with Seattle and like whatever that it's paying homage to. I'm not sure. I just think the uniforms need to get updated very badly. And look, hey, you look good, you play good. I don't think this looks good. Just, want to point it out before we move on to other stuff here. So that's all I'm trying to say.
Here's JSN too. Just show the clip. This is just an option route. You talk about we talked about Cooper Kupp running these option routes, but watch JSN. Sits right in the zone. He knows it's zone, recognizes it, and then to be able to make someone look that stupid and then turn on the Jets and score. I've done a full breakdown on JSN on TikTok and on YouTube Shorts, going over some of his best plays at Ohio State, showing why it's going to translate to the NFL. I think this guy's the best receiver in the draft. I don't think it was close. And I think he's in a perfect situation where he doesn't have to do everything. He's going to be their 3rd option. And I think very well by the end of the year, he could be their 2nd or 1st option. That's how good he is. I'm incredibly excited to see these 3 guys work with Geno Smith.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is he has, Smith, for his faults, I think he's in a perfect system because he has no shortage of weapons to check down to. Their run game looked really good last year. As Mark said, that, they have a very good running back duo to work with. Like, it's going to be dangerous for sure. So moving on to the Cardinals, which, like I said, we don't really have any film for them. We just basically have what's their draft class look like. And I think I actually like this because, one, they traded away a decent amount of capital for next season, which I think is a great idea when you're bringing in, new management, new coaching staff. Let's see what you got for this year and then figure out what problems you want to address next year.
Did you see the irony of where Cliff Kingsbury is coaching?
No, where is he coaching? He took a coaching job?
He's doing he's a specialist coach with USC. So he's going to be working with Caleb Williams. So the guy that's going to probably be picked to come in and take over for Kyler is now going to be Kingsbury.
So that's where I was going next. Was the other thing is they're really not going to be good this year. So the fact they're loaded up on draft capital, and they're probably going to have some high picks for this draft. Probably, a pretty good move on their part.
No one's thinking Arizona's going to do anything this year. If you're a Cardinals fan and you think that they're going to be relevant, I think you're probably insane.
We were wrong about the Seahawks. I genuinely believe this team is picking 1st overall next year.
They may tank. They may tank on purpose. I think they may lose games on purpose. I think 4.5 wins is generous to say that that's their over under. I think that 3 wins will be tough for them.
Okay. So look, now taking a look at this draft class though, I mean, who did they lose, right? They lost JJ Watt. They lost both of their receivers. Their offensive line has been horrendous the past couple of years.
They did
So
improve their O-line in this draft.
yeah, investing in Paris Johnson, great. I mean, I would say, there's a couple debates. I would say he was the best tackle that you could pick in this draft class. He's going to be a stud. Then BJ, I think it's Ojulari, the edge rusher out of LSU. Great round 2 pick. I think that he's going to pan out. And you got Garrett Williams out of Syracuse. Now, he's coming off of injury, but he has really good ball skills. I think you're getting a lot of value for a 3rd-round pick here. Grabbing a guy out of Stanford that I haven't watched a whole lot of film out of, so I'm not going to bullshit you and act like I know what I'm talking about for him. John Gaines, too, this guy's probably going to be an interior offensive line guy, but again, making investments there because of how not great it was. Clayton Tune, quarterback out of Houston, best at LB, and, just kind of run down the list here. But I do think that, these first 3 or 4 picks are going to be guys that start for them at some point this year. And so I think that, again, preparing for the future. Cardinals fans, we posted a video about this that did pretty well a couple months ago. You guys might be the worst team in the NFL this season, but I do think that there is a little bit more of a plan in place for how you plan on getting to next season with the shit ton of draft capital you're going to have and potential to, either decide on whether or not they're going to roll with Kyler or they're going to trade him away and, go the Caleb Williams route or whatever else is going to go on. But
there's a lot of new in Arizona, but there's, I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that it's all bad. On the defensive side of the ball, you still have, for the time being, Budda Baker, who's one of the best at what he does in the NFL. I know he demanded a trade. Doesn't sound like he's going to get it. But Budda Baker, you still have him. You still have Isaiah Simmons, who I think is one of the most versatile linebackers / safeties in the league. I'm still mad that the Lions didn't draft him when they had the opportunity to. He's the guy that does everything well for them. So it's not all bad. You still have some key pieces to build around. Obviously, it's going to be a tough year. You're not in an easy division. You don't have an easy schedule. Your quarterback is injured. New coaches, a lot of new faces, but you do have some anchored pieces that if you can hold on to them and keep them bought in, you can build around. So the future is definitely bright for Arizona. I think it's brighter than people realize, and I don't think it's going to take 4 or 5 years to rebuild them into a competitive franchise. I think that probably just one down year, and you could be looking at a team that competes in this division in the next 2, maybe 3 years.
Yeah. But in the meantime, expect like a 3 or 4 win season. I mean,
Sean's like, oh, that sounds good, but hey, your guys are gonna suck.
This year's gonna be brutal. And hey, sometimes you need a brutal year to build something great. I have friends that built successful businesses that sucked the first year. Mark and I basically talked to ourselves for the first year of doing this. We started to catch steam, I guess end of the regular season or so. But point is that good things might be coming later, but they're not coming this season. And if you haven't figured out what I'm going to say about this over-under for the Cardinals, I am taking under. I think they're going to be like a 3-win team.
Yeah,
if they're lucky.
Under on the Cardinals. I'm going to go under on the Rams. I'm going to go over on the Seahawks, and I'm going to go over on the Niners.
Rams, I think I'm going to go over. I think they're going to be like a 7-win team, so just barely. I'm with you on Seahawks and Niners. I think both these teams are going to go over. I think Brock Purdy definitely has, how far can he take this team? But Shanahan seems all bought in on it. I think Shanahan's ability to pivot from the original plan, that original plan being Trey Lance, is impressive. And, I still think this team is going to be an 11, 12, 13 win team this season and, compete to go to the Super Bowl on the NFC side of things. Like, I do legitimately think that is in the 49ers future for the 3rd season in a row, is to be competing for, the NFC championship. So
I think Seattle wins the division.
Interesting.
I do.
What do you think their win total is then? Do you think this is like grossly?
I think they win 10 or 11 games.
Okay. Got you. I think that's fair.
Yeah. I think they probably split the series with the Niners. I think they get them once. And I just think that they come out on top of this division.
Yeah. So looking ahead to next week of preseason, right, we're going to see a little bit more starters, a little bit more fringe guys playing. Anything that you're kind of excited about going into this next week here?
No, obviously with the preseason being three weeks instead of 4 weeks now, that shortening that, the opportunity for these guys, these fringe guys, is less. So you have less overall chances to make a name for yourself in camp and in these preseason moments. And I just look forward to seeing guys compete and continuing to watch the quarterback development, see if any of these guys figure it out a little bit more after they get those first game jitters out of the way. And I'm also just really interested in see, Hard Knocks comes out tonight. I'm curious to see if they cover any of the Dalvin Cook news, how the team reacts to that, and just more of the rest of the guys, right? Aaron Rodgers was all episode 1. I mean, we didn't get a chance to really talk about it because we filmed last week, the night before, or the night of it coming out, so we hadn't seen it yet. But episode 1 was the Aaron Rodgers show. I hope that we get some more stuff on Sauce, some more stuff on maybe some of the defensive players. Hope our guy Conklin gets a little bit of airtime. Some more stuff maybe in the coaches meetings and stuff like that. Like Hard Knocks is supposed to be. Like, we want to see inside of what's happening with everything, not just their new franchise superstar.
Those fringe guys that they focus on really is what makes Hard Knocks an entertaining show. So
yeah,
I completely agree. Yeah, everybody, thanks for tuning in. And we got AFC South next week. Week after that, we obviously have NFC South, and then that's it. That's all 8 divisions, and we will be going into, the actual season following that, opening it up with our Detroit Lions playing the Kansas City Chiefs. So it's going to be a pretty.
It's right around the corner. It's right around the corner, man. College football is coming back as well. We have our first high school game a week from Friday. I mean, this shit's here, man. It is here.
Yeah, how's the team looking so far? And who do you guys open the season with? It's not
Orchard Lake St. Mary's. Okay. And we open up at their place. We look okay. We're getting there. We're just finished up. The last day of camp was today, so we're getting there. It's a work in progress.
Good stuff. Well, hey, everybody, thanks for checking us out. We are looking forward to seeing you guys next week to cover the AFC South. Hope you guys enjoy the preseason games and looking forward to catching up next week. Peace.
See you guys.